Today we are going to analyze Mark Zuckerberg's Chinese. I'm going to point out some common mistakes he made, and maybe you also make these mistakes. Let's find out in this video. Let's go! Hello everyone, I'm Grace. Welcome back to my channel. Before I talk about Mark Zuckerberg's Chinese, I want to say that I only found clips of him speaking Chinese from around 4 years ago, so I'm sure he speaks better Chinese now. But even 4 years ago, his Chinese was quite good. He could use Chinese to communicate with people, and his vocabulary and grammar were pretty good. The biggest problem, I think, was his pronunciation of tones, and most of the mistakes he made are also the common mistakes that students often make. So let's find out about them and see how to correct these mistakes. Okay, let's take a look at a short clips of his speech.
大家好，我很高兴再次来到清华大学。清华是一个非常好的大学。
He said, 大家好。我很高兴再次来到清华大学。清华是一个非常好的大学。After I said it, did you notice any differences? In this short clip, he made a very common mistake. That is, at the end of these two sentences, he said
清华大学。
Xue has the second tone, so the tone should rise, right? But why did his voice go down? It's not because he remembered the tone wrong. It's actually because of the intonation. Intonation is the changing pitch of your voice, depending on what you're saying. For example, if you're asking a question, your voice will go up at the end. Like, what? What? Do you hear my raising voice? That is intonation. Because he was saying a statement, at the end of his sentences, he wanted his pitch to go down, so he changed his tone to go down, which is a very common mistake you should avoid. You should always remember, when you want to say sentences in Chinese that have intonations, never change the tone of the characters. Right now you might ask, how do I make raising and folding intonations in Chinese? Let me teach you. For example, in a normal pitch, you would say, 他是老师，他是老师。When it is just a statement and you want your pitch to go down, you should move the entire pitch down, like 他是老师，他是老师。Originally, it's 师，师。As a statement, it's 师，师。他是老师，他是老师。And when you want the pitch to go up to make the sentence sound like a question, it's the same. You just move the whole pitch up. Like, 他是老师，他是老师。Originally, it's 师，师。As a question, it's 师，师。他是老师，他是老师。You cannot change the tone like 他是老师，他是老师。This sounds like the second tone. People might not get what you want to say. So here in this clip,
清华大学，清华大学。
you should say 清华大学，清华大学，学。The entire pitch of 学 goes down, but the tone remains the same. It still rises. Okay, let's see another clip.
你们是未来科技、商业、政府和其他行业的领导者。
I will say it again, but I didn't get what he wanted to say in the middle. I'm just gonna skip it. 你们是未来科技、商业和其他行业的领导者。
你们是未来科技、商业和其他行业的领导者。
Okay, here he made tone mistakes again because of intonation. When you're listing things, unless it's the last things of a list, usually you will raise your intonation. For example, I like drawing, teaching, and sleeping. I like drawing, teaching, and sleeping. The pitch of drawing and teaching is going up because you haven't finished your sentence. So here,
科技、商业、科技、商业。
you can see 科技 商业, 技 and 业 have the fourth tone, but he changed them into the second tone to match his intonation. So it doesn't sound natural to us. You should raise the pitch instead of the tone. You should pronounce it like 科技商业 normally is 科技商业, but when your pitch goes up, it becomes 科技商业. Another mistake he made is that he pronounced the first tone in a low pitch.
科技商业科技商业
Look at this picture. You can recognize that the pitch of the first tone is higher than the other tones. For example, if you say, I'm learning Chinese, you would say, 我在学中文我在学中文 So did you notice that the 中 has a higher pitch than other words in the sentence? Let's listen to it again. 我在学中文我在学中文 It sounds unnatural to say 我在学中文我在学中文 Yes, I pronounced it with flat tone, but it was not high enough. So if Mark Zuckerberg had pronounced the first tone higher, it would have sounded more natural. Okay, let's move on to the next clip.
所以今天我想要说三个故事。
Let me say it again. 所以今天我想要说三个故事。
所以今天我想要说三个故事。
So there's a little mistake I want to point out. It's also about the tone. Let's take a look at this picture again. You can see that the third tone is relatively low compared to the other tones. It starts from this pitch, really low. So when you pronounce the third tone, the pitch should be lower than the other tones. You just start from a low pitch and then go down a bit. This is how we native speakers pronounce the third tone. So the little mistake Mark Zuckerberg made is that he pronounced the third tone with a high pitch.
所以今天我想要说三个故事。
To sound more like a native speakers, you should say 我想要说 not 我想要说 I don't want to confuse you, but there's one other rule for pronouncing the third tone. You can recognize this rule first and gradually get used to applying it. So normally we pronounce the third tone with a low pitch and then go down, right? But when the third tone is combined with another third tone, you should pronounce the first one like the second tone. For example, 雨伞总统整理 This rule is easy to understand because if you pronounce them with the same low pitch, it's not clear enough for listeners to understand. So that's why we changed the tone to make them distinguishable. Okay, today I have 3 concepts for you to take away. The first one is that when you want to make intonations in Chinese, never change the tone of the characters. The second one is that the first tone should be pronounced high and flat. Remember that its pitch should be relatively high compared to the other tones. The last concept is that the third tone should start from a relatively low pitch compared to the other tones and then go down a bit, unless it combines with another third tone. Okay, in the end, I want to say that I think what Mark Zuckerberg did is amazing. He could have chosen to just use English for his speech, but he challenged himself to give the speech in Chinese, which is really impressive. And another thing is that if you want to improve your pronunciation, simply knowing what I told you today is not enough. You need more practice. And if you don't know how, you can go to watch this video where I talk about some methods to train your pronunciation. Alright, I will see you next time. Bye!